before we get into all the learning, I wanted to introduce you guys and really just tell my story to you guys to understand who I am and what has fostered this mentality that you guys see, which is the apex mentality in apex economy. I have to take you guys back to my humble origins. I'm originally West African. I was born in Monrovia, Liberia, and during my birth, it wasn't a normal birth. My first interaction with the world was to have my mouth covered so that, I wouldn't cry out, because if I had cried out, the rebels would come and kill my whole family and kill everybody that was in that area hiding. See, I was born during the Liberian Civil War, which was 14 years long. The first couple years of life was all in chaos. I didn't have a normal childhood like most people were born in the hospital. Everybody's cheering, everybody's happy. I be seeing that stuff on the movies and I'm just like, wow, it looks interesting. And their families there taking pictures and there's a celebration, right? My birth was the opposite. It was scary. It was anxiety in the air because everybody was looking at my mother and asking, why are you having the baby? Why are you keeping the baby? Like, the baby, we're in a war. We're refugees. We're trying to escape. And you're trying to keep this baby. He could get us all killed by just being a baby, So that was my first introduction into the world. From then on, my family would go on this long journey from Monrovia, Liberia to Kumasi, Ghana to escape the war by foot, approximately 580 something miles, walking in the jungle, surviving, almost weeks trip of just survival, straight survival. Living off the earth, doing your best to deal with what means you have. That was my origin, and that's why my mother to this day is one of the biggest role models I have in my life, because her perseverance bred me and gave me life, because she could have chose the easy route. She tells me story all the time about how other mothers were throwing their kids into the river, drowning their kids, suffocating their kids, killing their babies because they chose their life. They chose themselves over the baby because they could reproduce another baby, but once they're dead, they're dead. They chose to preserve their life. And in a situation like that, you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know how you're going to react. Don't judge them, because they chose their survival. But my mother, to this day, she tells me all the time, she said, if we were going to die, I was going to die with my son. There was no way I was going to give up on you. So that whole situation set the precedence for my life. It gave me the means that whatever I'm going through, I can think back on and say, if my mothers can preserve my life through all of that, risking hers, risking the rest of my family, risking the people that we were traveling with to preserve me, I have no right to give up. I have to keep going. I have to keep striving to be the best version. So it kind of put a chip on my shoulders where I felt like I had to prove something and I had to give back to her and show her that her sacrifice meant something. It wasn't in vain. To walk almost over 500 miles from one country to another as people are dying around you, as people are suffering around you, as she is suffering, barely eating and taking food from herself to give to me as an infant baby to preserve my life. And it set the precedence. And I feel like that experience has led me to be able to be where I am now, to tell you guys this story, because I've always had this, no matter what's going on, I'm going to keep moving forward attitude to persevere and to keep pushing and to keep striving. Fast forward to growing up in the refugee camp. My family made it to Kumasi, Ghana, in the Liberian refugee camp, where I would spend the rest of my life until the age of 6. All these things I'm telling you happened before the age of 8, but from birth to about 5, from 5 to 6, I spent in Kumasi, Ghana, growing up there in the refugee camp. And the refugee camp was the same scenario. It was beyond poverty. I think poverty was like a light statement of what was going on out there, but it was better than what we had in Liberia, because Liberia had nothing. It just had death. Growing up in the refugee camp, we had to live off the earth, which taught me a lot about growing my own food, hunting, and surviving, right? Because there wasn't no grocery store in the refugee camp. There wasn't no means to go out there, and there wasn't no job. We had to literally just figure out what we were going to do. And what my mother did was taught us how to live off the earth, how to grow our own crop. And in return, she would take that and we would go and sell it. And that's how we would have finances to just get by. And we ended up being there for about 2 years. And from 5 to 7 to 6, or 7 years old, we survived in Kumasi. And from 7 to 8, the war had ceased down. And my family ended up going back to Liberia, where I met my dad for the first time. And then he ended up doing something what is called the diversity visa, and ended up getting lucky and bringing my whole family with the help of my great aunt to America. So I came to America when I was 8 years old, right? So already my life was just set up like this guy. I have 2 options. I was either going to let my origin be my demise or be my reason to win and to succeed. And I chose to win. So when we came to America, it was a cultural shock. Like the environment, everybody was different. I had to learn and had to go through a lot of self-reflection and self-therapy to deal with the traumas of being born and growing up in chaos and war. I'm telling you guys this story so you can understand that a lot of these courses that we're going to be teaching comes from my own self-development and self-journey. A lot of the skills and tactics that we're going to be giving to you guys, especially me, comes from what I've actually used to get me to be in the point where I'm educating you guys now. And I can speak to you guys and convey my thoughts to you guys. I was never able to be there. Leaving Liberia, I had a lot of PTSD as a child. I was very shy. I wouldn't even look people in the eyes, fearful, small-minded, and just lacking in so many traits due to my upbringing. But with perseverance and the will to survive and the will to seek knowledge, I am the man I am today. So when my father brought us to America, it took quite a bit of adjusting to get used to, and I still couldn't cut it. I couldn't figure out what was going on, why I just felt different. And that led me to join the military, because I knew in the military I would be back in the environment where I was comfortable in: chaos, war. So at the age of 19, after barely getting in so much trouble in middle school, high school, just trying to find myself, being lost, no real role model to show me the path. Like I've always knew there was more, but I didn't know where to go to find that more. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know where to even seek the knowledge, because the environment that we were in, once again, they didn't allow that. We were growing up in the hood, surrounded by poverty, living in the low income apartment buildings. The options that I had there were either to become a gangster, go be a nursing assistant, or join the military. The most successful person that I knew at that time was my cousin, and he was in the military. And I would look at him on Facebook and see him doing all these crazy things, and I was like, wow, he is so successful. And then I look at my environment and go outside and see people selling drugs and people gang banging and getting shot. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out my path to success. And at that time, when I hit the age of 17, 18-ish, I was like, the path to success is the military. So I started preparing myself to go that route. I started training. Before I even joined the military, I would go out and run, because I knew I had to learn how to run. I knew I had to be strong. So I started training. So that's where the fitness aspect of it came into play, because I knew the military is going to require me to be physically strong, mentally tough. I started self-reflecting. I started reading books. And by the time I joined the military, everything got expedited. I joined the military at the age of 19. I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, as a combat engineer. I told them I wanted the most dangerous thing that they can find, and the quickest way to get out of Minnesota, which is where we grew up, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center area, Minnesota. So in like a couple weeks from me walking in the recruiting office, I was already in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, training as a combat engineer, which if some of you guys are familiar with the military, a combat engineer is an explosive expert. They provide different assets for the military, but their main purpose is survivability, mobility, and counter mobility. Yes, survivability, mobility, and counter mobility. Meaning their job as a combat engineer is survivability, meaning you're attached out to an infantry platoon, and your job is to do whatever it takes to allow them to survive in the fight as long as possible. So if you have to play infantry with them, meaning do whatever, go on the missions with them, provide assistance, you do that. If you have to clear rooms with them, you do that as well. We work with explosives, which is part of the counter mobility as well. Counter mobility was creating obstacles to prevent the enemy from maneuvering on the battlefield, and then mobility was creating means to allow your friendly forces to maneuver on the battlefield. So my job in the military was similar to like a multi-tool. Wherever the battlefield required me to be, that's what I did. So some days we were out looking for IEDs to clear the road for our forces to be able to go accomplish their mission. That's what I did. Some days I was with the infantry forces, doing what we needed to do to accomplish the mission. That's what my job required. And then some days I was building obstacle courses, obstacles in the path of the enemy forces to prevent them from coming to us, like the 11 row, concertina wires, all those stuff. As a combat engineer, the military requires me to be many things all at once, and that's what I did. So completing my training in basic training and completing OSET at Missouri, my first duty station was Fort Irwin, California. Fort Irwin, California is where I would then proceed to go and where I would meet Christian Buckle. My relationship with Christian Buckle first started off rocky. We hated each other. We did not like each other because he came with a chip on his shoulders. I came with a chip on my shoulder as well. And we both met and was like, my chip is bigger than yours. And he was like, absolutely not. But what it did was it forced us to keep striving to be great. And that's why, looking back now, we excelled through our military career so well and so fast, because I knew in the back of my mind, Christian was outworking me whenever I would get tired. And he knew in the back of his mind, I was outworking him whenever he was tired. So that just made us keep working and keep striving and keep learning and keep trying to be the best we can be, no matter where we were. I ended up being at Fort Irwin, California for 2 years. And then I decided the next path for me was airborne. And I chose to go airborne, went to jump school and got sent to Anchorage, Alaska. And he stayed at Irwin for another year, and then he got sent to Fort Bragg. But the crazy thing, even though I was in Anchorage, Alaska, and he was at Fort Bragg, our paths still crossed in Afghanistan during our first deployment, where his unit were coming in as my unit was leaving, right? So my unit deployed to Afghanistan, which is a whole nother story that we'll have to talk more in depth during some of the live. You guys can ask me questions about that if you want to know more about it, but it will give more details during the military mindset course as well. But in Afghanistan, as my unit was leaving, his unit came in, so we still crossed path again. And then after that deployment, he got injured out there, so he was on the path, to get out of the military because of his injury. And then I was still going on, so I went back to Anchorage, Alaska. But all these experiences and all these things that has happened has in that moment seemed so terrible for me, because there were some nights while I deployed overseas where I would just lay there and stare at the stars and ask myself, how did I end up back in here? I survived as a child from a war as a kid, and why did I put myself in this scenario again? Why did I put myself in this situation again? And the answer to that question one day would hit me like a pile of rock that the locals will always throw at us. If you've ever been deployed, you know what I'm talking about. There's some of the people loved us, and some of them hated us. And as we would go on patrol, you better keep your eye on the swivel, not only for the people who are trying to kill you, but for the locals that just don't want you in there. And they will always throw bricks and rocks at us, right? But the answer hit me like a pile of rock coming from one of those kids. And it's because, one, it's the only place I was comfortable in. And that's because I wasn't growing as a person. I wasn't growing growing as a man. And it's not that I didn't want to grow or I didn't seek the knowledge. I did. I yearned for knowledge, but I didn't know where or how to acquire that knowledge and to implement it into my life. I was lacking on those. So I went back to the same thing I knew in the same place that kept me comfortable, which was war, chaos, as an adult now. So upon realizing that, it set me on the path of self-development once again to solve the problem of seeking knowledge and self-development. When I came back, I knew it was time for a change. I spent 4 years in Alaska. My next duty station was Georgia at Fort Stewart. And I told myself when I came down to Fort Stewart, Georgia, I was going to do whatever it takes to create the man that I need to be and not just keep seeking chaos and not just keep seeking war. To be a functioning man in society, a leader, an educator, and a civil. When I told myself when I get down to Georgia, I was going to seek knowledge and educate myself to create the means in order to exit this chaotic environment that I was in. The military was crucial in my fundamentals and my foundation. They helped me with so many skills, so many experience, so many mentors. My first experience with an actual mentor was in the military, and having this guy use his experience to guide me really saved me a lot of time and a lot of mistakes. But I understood now that that's not the path I wanted for the rest of my life. I had paid my dues, and it was time for me to pursue my own endeavors and bet on myself as a man, as a human being. And the military had already given me all the skills that I needed to do so. I just had to implement those for myself. So coming down to Fort Stewart, I went on this journey of self-discovery, and which will lead me to all the things that you guys seen that we're going to be implementing into these courses, into Apex Academy, and into you guys' journey as well. The goal again here is to give you guys all the tools using our experience. You don't have to spend almost a decade in the military to learn from my experience, to learn from Christian experience. You can watch these courses, implement these different key steps that we're going to have, and use our experience to expedite your growth. One thing that always sticks with me is, and the cornerstone of who I am as a man today, is to always strive to be the person that I needed as a child growing up. And that's always been my goal in everything I do, from launching social media and passing on my message of fitness. I've always wanted to reach out to those people that needed someone striving for knowledge, for the right direction, but there's nobody in their environment is forcing them to stay there. Guys, at some point in my life, my heart would literally hurt. It would be painful. I would go and I'll tell you guys this story. I tell you guys this on social media all the time. Like, the pain was so much inside me that I'm like, I need to change. I need knowledge. I know there's more out there in life, but I just don't know how. And it would ache. I would lay in bed and my stomach would be knotted up and my heart would be pounding. And I would pray and pray and pray, like, why can there not be somebody that just come down and say, hey son, this is the path you need to go. I felt your pain. I can see it in your eyes. These are the steps you need to take to get to where you want to be in life. It's achievable, and you have the drive, you have the will and the discipline to do it. Go this way. I never had that. So once again, I had to become that. And that's where Apex Academy is coming from. That's the inspiration behind Apex Academy. To take all that anguish that I had to go through, all the hours that I had to spend seeking knowledge, all the money that I had to invest, put it in one spot, and then take other experts and put their pain and their struggles and their knowledge and their experience in one spot. So that when you guys come in this community, you have every single thing you need to figure out what direction you want to go in life. And you have the tools to equip yourself with it to pursue that and achieve that and succeed at that. So this is Apex on, guys. I'm so grateful you guys are a part of the community. but I'm even more grateful for what you're going to accomplish after leaving or after being part of this community. Again, the Apex Academy is more than just a fitness group. It's a lifestyle that I want you guys to adapt. It's a characteristic trait that I want you guys to adapt, to persevere, to seek knowledge, but to take action. With that being said, that concludes the introduction to our group. I hope you guys are ready to enhance your life and empower yourself, because no one's going to save you. If one thing I've learned in my lifetime is nobody is going to come to save you. You have to save yourself. You have to be the mentor that you need. You have to be the hero that you need. You have to be the guidance that you need. But it could be a lot easier if you have the tools and you lean on other people's experience to get you there. And that's what Apex Academy aims to do. Stay blessed.